Summary of the Republic by Plato. The Republic is a philosophical dialogue written by Plato around the 4th century BCE. It is presented as a conversation led by Socrates, focusing on the central question of justice, what it is and whether the just life is happier and better than the unjust one. The dialogue opens with Socrates discussing justice with Cephalus, who defines it as telling the truth and paying one's debts. Socrates quickly shows that this definition is inadequate, since telling the truth or repaying debts can sometimes cause harm. Polemarchus refines the definition by suggesting that justice means helping friends and harming enemies. Socrates challenges this by arguing that justice cannot involve harming anyone, because harming people makes them worse, not better. Thrasymachus then enters the discussion aggressively, claiming that justice is nothing more than the advantage of the stronger. According to him, rulers create laws to serve their own interest, and obedience to these laws is called justice. Socrates responds by showing contradictions in Thrasymachus' argument. He suggests that true rulers, like true craftsmen, seek the good of those they govern rather than their own advantage. Glaucon and Adeimantus, Plato's brothers, revive Thrasymachus' challenge in a stronger form. They argue that people practice justice only out of fear of punishment and social consequences, not because justice is good in itself. To answer this challenge, Socrates proposes examining justice on a larger scale by imagining an ideal city. By understanding justice in the city, they hope to understand justice in the individual soul. Socrates describes the origin of the city as arising from human needs and cooperation. He outlines a simple city based on basic necessities, which Glaucon criticizes as a city of pigs, prompting the development of a more complex city. With complexity comes the need for guardians to defend the city. Socrates emphasizes that these guardians must be both strong and gentle, combining physical training with philosophical education. Education becomes central in shaping just citizens. Socrates insists on strict control over poetry and music, allowing only stories that promote virtue, courage, and respect for the gods. Physical education is paired with musical education to create balance in the soul. Excess in either leads to harshness or softness, while harmony produces a well-ordered character. Socrates introduces the idea that justice in the city consists of each class performing its proper role. The rulers govern, the guardians protect, and the producers provide for material needs. This structure leads to the famous definition of justice as doing one's own work and not meddling in the work of others. Justice is thus understood as harmony and order, not merely obedience to laws. Socrates extends this idea to the individual soul, which he divides into 3 parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. A just person is one in whom reason rules, spirit supports reason, and appetite obeys. The dialogue then turns to the concept of the philosopher king. Socrates argues that only philosophers who love truth and possess knowledge of the good are fit to rule the city. To explain philosophical knowledge, Socrates presents the allegory of the cave. Human beings are compared to prisoners who mistake shadows for reality until one is freed and comes to know the truth. The freed prisoner represents the philosopher, who ascends from ignorance to knowledge. Returning to the cave symbolizes the philosopher's duty to govern and educate others, despite resistance. Socrates contrasts just political systems with unjust ones, describing a decline from aristocracy to timocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and finally tyranny. Tyranny is presented as the most unjust and miserable form of rule. The tyrannical individual mirrors the tyrannical state, enslaved by desires, driven by fear, and incapable of true happiness. Justice, by contrast, brings inner peace and order. The dialogue concludes by affirming that justice benefits the soul both in this life and the next. Through the myth of Plato suggests that justice has cosmic significance, rewarding souls beyond death and reinforcing the value of the just life.